The unsurpassed, penetrating and perfect truth is seldom met with, even in 100,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it. We can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. Today we're going to talk about the 20th ancestor, the sainted Shayata. So our first little story of their meeting is, maybe it isn't their meeting, maybe it's after it's been together a while. No, it's when you first meet. One day, Kumarata pointed out to Shayata, although you already believe in the 3 types of karma, you still have not awakened to the fact that karma is born from confusion, that confusion results from consciousness, that consciousness depends on the sleep of ignorance, and that the sleep of ignorance depends on original mind. Original mind is naturally pure and unstained. It is not born, nor does it die. It does not concoct things. It does not reward or punish. It does not gain or lose anything. It is utterly still and utterly vital. If you enter this gate to the Dharma, you can be the same as the Buddhas. All good and evil deeds, whether intentional or unintentional, are like dreams and fantasies. When Shayata heard these words, he grasped their import and realized the wisdom that was stored up from his past lives. So Shayata meets Kumarata and asks him a question about karma. He says, my parents have always had faith in the triple treasure, but they've continually been subject to illnesses, and all their endeavors have come to naught. Whereas our neighbor, who persists in behaving like Chandala the outlaw, has always been fit and healthy, and his undertaking successful. Why has he had such good fortune, and where have we gone wrong? And Kumarata replies, why do you entertain such doubts? The karmic effects of good and bad actions will come to fruition in one of 3 temporal phases. In general, people see that the benevolent may suffer untimely or violent deaths, while the cruel may live long. Or the wicked may be fortunate, whilst the morally upright meet with misfortune. And because of this, they say that there is no cause and effect, and that vice and good deeds are empty words. Above all, they don't understand that consequences follow upon actions, which are influenced by even the slightest vacillation, and that even were 1,000 million kalpas to elapse, these consequences will still not be wiped away, and that cause and effect are of necessity in accord with each other. By the time Shayata had heard these words, his doubts had all been clarified. And then Kumarata says the paragraph, what we first read. He's saying you already believe in the 3 kinds of karma. The 3 kinds of karma are karma that comes to fruition in this life, that which comes to fruition in the next life, or in some life after the next one, sometimes after a long time. He says millions of kalpas may elapse and the consequences still remain, they don't disappear, even after a small thing. Which doesn't mean we're paralyzed, we can't do anything, and we're afraid to act in any way. We just are aware that this is how it is. And Kumarata is saying to Shayata, you already believe in these 3 kinds of karma, but you don't understand that karma is the result of confusion, confusion is the result of consciousness, consciousness comes out of the sleep of ignorance. In other words, karma is just part of the wheel of dependent origination. the wheel that keeps birth and death, life after life, constantly turning. And the wheel of dependent origination itself depends on original mind, Buddha nature, says Kumarata. It's in no way separate from it. All our comings and goings, all the things that happen to us, it's all part of Buddha nature. It's not separate. This nice, clean Buddha nature over here and all our messy stuff over there. It's all part of the same thing. And, he says, Buddha nature is naturally pure and unstained. Even though it embraces all this stuff, it is not born, nor does it die. It does not concoct things. Things come forth from it, but it doesn't create them or make them up. They just naturally come forth, leaves and branches. It does not reward or punish. We tend to think of the law of karma sometimes as some kind of judgment, reward and punishment. But it's simply cause and effect. Like the law of gravity, no judgment in it at all, just cause and effect. You do this, you get this result. It's not a judging thing. And many of us in the West have been raised with the idea of sin and judgment. And it can be very hard to let go of that. We may still have in the back of our mind some idea that we're trying to be good in order to please some exacting God. It can be quite subtle. And we don't always realize that that's there in the background, because we've been often raised with punishment, sin, and somebody who's judging us. And of course we're always wanting, lacking. And Kumarata says, Buddha nature does not reward or punish. It does not gain or lose anything. It is utterly still and utterly vital, unchanging and yet constantly moving and full of life. Unborn, undying, and constantly moving. The great ocean of Buddha nature. And he says, if you enter this gate to the Dharma, if you completely understand this, you can be the same as the Buddhas. All good and evil deeds, whether intentional or unintentional, whether we mean to do them or not, are like dreams and fantasies. They're not the reality. The law of karma is inevitable and inexorable, and it all takes place within Buddha nature, like ripples on water or waves on the ocean. These things are not completely solid and real. They all take place within the reality. But we still have to deal with these things. It's not like, it's just unreal, I don't have to worry about it. We still have our karmic consequences. And now Keizan tells us that as meditators, we need to be careful with all this. We can misunderstand. Shayata is complaining that his parents have always had faith in the triple treasure, but have continually had illnesses, and all their undertakings have come to nothing. But their neighbor, who behaves like an outlaw, has always been fit and healthy, and his undertakings have always been successful. Why is this? And in effect, he's saying, by believing in the Buddha's teaching, our lives ought to be long and our bodies ought to be in continual good health. We aren't getting what we want or what we deserve. What have we done wrong? And Keizan says, people still think this today. Now he's saying this in the 1300s. Even nowadays, hundreds of years later, people often think this. If I'm leading a good life, I should prosper and be healthy. Good things should come my way. And conversely, when somebody has a serious illness, occasionally people will tell them that they're not being spiritual enough, that they're not in cosmic harmony. And if they really were training, if they were really spiritual, in harmony with the universe, they wouldn't get sick or their sickness would go away. And this is both deluded and unkind, because it is not true at all. We do get sicknesses, even though we are doing our best. We know this. And it's always good to do our best, as we all see, as we know. Because Keizan explains quite clearly that karma sometimes comes to fruition much later. We don't necessarily know why we're suffering illness or misfortune now. And we don't need to heap judgment on ourselves or others in addition to that illness and misfortune. We don't need to make it worse by judging, oh, I must have been really bad because this is happening to me, or this other person they're not being very spiritual because they're sick. It's a complete misunderstanding. Because things do happen. As Keizan says, bad things do happen to good people. Training doesn't necessarily make us healthy and prosperous. And on the contrary, sometimes when we begin to train in Buddhism, or really try to do something about ourselves, we seem to be inviting karmic consequences to descend upon us. We might get sick, or we might have misfortunes. And we might think this is a bad thing. Or we might see it as an opportunity to cleanse our past karma and take it positively. If we understand karma correctly, not see it as a judgment or not feel like we're getting somebody else's comeuppance. It's just there's karmic consequences which only a Buddha can fully understand, they say. We don't know how it all works. We don't see the whole picture. But we accept what happens to us. Sometimes we can see the causes, sometimes we can't. And as Keizan says, people see that bad things happen to good people and vice versa. And they tend to think that cause and effect do not exist, that vice and good deeds are empty words. Nothing could be more foolish and deluded. They think this way because their path to enlightenment seems too dull or trifling for them. If there isn't cause and effect, if there's no difference between good and doing evil, why should I bother? Training is hard work and it can seem pretty mundane. But we actually know better. Such action and most unpretentious work all foolish seem and dull, says the scripture. But those who practice justice law continually shall in all worlds be called Lord of Lords unto eternity. It's not just trifling and dull. It's the way. Now Keizan talks more about the law of karma and how sometimes it comes to fruition many lives later. So if we're experiencing suffering in this life, it may be because of things done many lifetimes ago. We don't have to feel guilty about these things. It's not a me that did these things. Somebody did something. By accident, the wheel of karma turned the wrong way. And we now have the effects of that to deal with. However, Keizan says, we can change our karma. It doesn't go away, but we can mitigate it. It's not like it disappears completely, but we can help a lot. He says, the strength of our practice of the Buddha's teaching can turn heavy karma around so that we incur light karma. And it can turn light karma around so that it comes to nothing. Bad causes from the past create heavy suffering, but when people's practice of the Buddha's teaching is strong, their experience of such suffering is light. It's not that it goes away completely, but it's much lighter. It's not so painful. We don't drown in it in the same way. Some of us may be dealing with painful karmic events from this time or some other time for many years. But it gets lighter. It may not go away, but we can accept it better. And even when it comes up very strongly, we can handle it better. We know it will eventually pass, so we can sit more still with it, not completely believe in it and drown in it. We change our attitude to it. It's not such a huge thing. And many of us who've had painful karmic things from this life, particularly, that we still have to deal with, We know this, it actually gets better. And it may not completely go away, probably won't, but we do learn to accept it better, train with it better, and take it positively. Keizan goes on. Some are cloaked in illness. Some do not get what they wish for. Some find that what they say is not taken seriously by others. These are all cases of future heavy suffering received lightly in the present life. So it would have been worse if we did not train. Thus, the strength of your practice of the Buddha's teaching should evermore be relied upon. The fruits of practice from the distant past will make everything seem sprightly simply because of your dauntless devotion to training. That we have trained in the past, that we train now, makes everything seem sprightly. It makes it better, easier to deal with. Our attitude shifts, and that makes a huge difference. Our acceptance of the things that beset us, not just being completely weighed down by them. Because of our dauntless devotion to training, our faith in that which embraces all of it in Buddha nature. And he says, some of you may receive bad reputations, whilst others may not get what they desire as an occupation. And still others may not have fit and healthy bodies. This being so, if you wish to turn heavy karma around and incur light karma, never resent others, even though they despise you. Never find fault with others, even though they revile you. This is not easy. Even though you always respectfully bow in the face of their slanders, do not despise them, for your practice of the way will thereby be spoiled, and the good karma that you have stored up from past lives will in time vanish. By all means, keep on practicing until you master this in full. In other words, accept our karma, accept our karmic conditions, and don't complain about them. We may even be grateful that we have this opportunity to cleanse our past karma. Keep on with our training, keep to the precepts. Don't resent other people, no matter what they may do, or blame them for our problems. Not easy. Not to despise a person, not to think ill of them, even when they revile you, even if you don't say anything. Not to have a sort of angry little heart that's resentful and saying, oh, why are they doing this to me still? I didn't do that, or this is not fair. We wear away our merit by doing that. If we can actually, as best we can, patiently accept the insults and criticisms of others, and as the precepts say, see what may be wicked within our own deeds, see what we may have done, and what may be good within those of others. See the good in other people. See our own faults, not be looking for fault in other people, not looking to blame other people for our problems. Easy to say, not easy to do. And still, really helpful. Blaming other people, not helpful. Keizan says, although you may already believe in the 3 types of karma, this life, next life, a future life, you may still not know the roots of your karma. Karma essentially arises from delusion and confusion, he says. All the 6 realms of existence, even the blissful heavens, are the result of karma, which arises from delusion. Even blissful states that we saw the other day, you can be in some Brahma's heaven and still mess up because we're still within the realms of rebirth. Maybe we don't need to figure out all our karmic causes. We may not know the roots of our karma. We just need to see what we're doing right now. What am I doing now? I don't have to worry about past lives and the heavens and hells and all that. What am I doing now? Karma is based on ignorance and confusion, thinking we're a real self, and wanting some things and hating other things. Not knowing the roots of self, not knowing the birthplace of all the 10,000 things that comprise the universe, that from which all these things come. Buddha nature, not knowing that, not knowing the roots of self, not knowing the roots of our selfishness, or seeing that the self is not the reality. This is what creates karma. We don't have to have it all figured out, just to work on our selfishness, see where it arises, see where we hold on to resentment or clinging or whatever it may be. See how we hold on to these things and thereby create karma for ourselves and others. And the true source of our mind, Buddha nature, embraces all of these conditions, all of this ignorance and confusion and karma. And when we wake up, says Keizan, we realize that the source of our own mind is pure and unstained, that our own true nature is vital and luminous. When we can see in this way, ignorance is routed, the turning of the wheel of dependent origination is fruitless, and the 6 realms of existence vanish. Everyone's original nature is thus. Because of this, there is no longer the distinction of birth and death. Difficulties disappear. Hence there is no hate or desire or increasing or decreasing, just stillness and vitality. This sounds great, and I'm sure it is. We can think, oh, I'll be enlightened, and all my difficulties will disappear. Wonderful. As long as we have a body, we have karma. As long as we are alive, we can make mistakes. We're always subject to this while we're alive. But, as Keizan has said, our dauntless devotion to training, our strong practice of the Buddha's teaching, can greatly lighten our karma. Our attitude changes. We can accept karmic consequence, not as judgment, but simply as cause and effect. That's all. We accept the things that come our way and do our very best with them. See our selfishness. Work with it. And these things that come to us can help us. They don't have to be obstacles. We don't have to be enlightened before we can do this. We can do it now. We can train now. We don't have to wait until we're completely enlightened, because we might be waiting a while. Keizan says, if you feel you would like to gain a glimpse of your original nature, I love this, if you feel you'd like to gain a glimpse of your original nature, give up everything, cut all ties, think of neither good nor evil. Straight out of rules for meditation. Simple. Let your eyes look down the ridge of your nose for a while and look into your original nature. Turning, reflecting the light within. Withdraw within and reflect upon yourself. Turn the light within. Look into your original nature. Simple meditation practice. When your whole mind is still, all appearances will come to an end, and your ignorance of that source will be on the point of being routed. Not completely gone, but on the point of being routed. The branches and leaves, karma and its fruit, in fact, do not really exist. So don't grow stagnant in the place of non-discrimination. Don't get stuck in some lovely, still place. Don't be caught up in the moments when discriminating thoughts do not arise. They're pretty rare. Oh, lovely, no thoughts, wonderful. Don't get stuck there, because we're human. Life moves on. Vital life. We're constantly moving on. Don't get stuck in stillness or stuck in some special state. Keep on moving. It, Buddha nature, is neither immutable nor impermanent. It's constantly moving. You can't get stuck. Constantly flowing. It's neither ignorant nor immaculate. It makes no distinctions among the Buddhas and treats all sentient beings alike. We are all subject to the law of karma. Nobody is beyond karma. We are all in this world, imperfect as it is, with all the things of our lives, all the difficulties, the things that are not perfect, the things that we wish we'd done and didn't. Who knows how it would have turned out if we had? We all have all these conditions of our lives to live in, to deal with. And it, Buddha nature, makes no distinctions among the Buddhas and treats all sentient beings alike. The law of karma treats sentient beings alike. It's what we do, it's up to us. When you arrive at this clear, white, perfect, luminous state, only then will you be a true kesa-clad monk, a true being. If you are like this, you will be the same as all the Buddhas. At this stage, all that you encounter, whether intentionally or unintentionally, will be like a dream or a fantasy. It's not the reality. Try to grab hold of Buddha nature, the source, the flow, the water. Try to grab hold of it, your hand will be empty. Try to see it, your eyes will have nothing to connect with. Just live within it. You can't grab onto it. When you have reached this stage, you will have awakened to the principle that the Buddhas have not yet entered the world and have arrived at this state where sentient beings have not yet become confused and contrary. Awaken to that which comes before all the appearances, that which is beneath all the appearances. And he says, unless your practice of meditation has reached this point, even though you worship the Buddha throughout the day and harmonize your body and mind whilst engaged in walking, standing, sitting and lying down, you will merely experience the effect of being a human, a superior effect of being a human, or a deva, the karmic consequence of being in a heavenly state, while still afflicted with defiling passions. If we haven't got to this state, which seems far beyond what most of us presently are, you'll still just be a human being, still afflicted by defiling passions. You won't have got beyond them. Such a condition is like a shadow following a form. It exists, but it's not the truth. We're not there yet. We can think, ugh, Therefore, everyone, he says, arouse your vigor, that you may awaken to your true nature. He has faith in us. He's not giving up on us. He's not saying, well, too bad for you. It's way beyond anything you can do. He says, yes, you need to find this, and you can do it. Wake up, get on with it. As usual, he says, I have fixed my humble words. Do you wish to hear them? The camphor tree, as of old, grows up into the sky. Its branches and leaves, roots and trunk flourish beyond the clouds. The camphor tree, the source of life, its branches and leaves, roots and trunk, all the appearances, all the things of this world, the things that happen to us, the manifestation of karma, and all the causes of these things, they flourish beyond the clouds. We can't see all of it. We only see part of it. We don't see all the causes of the things that happen to us, all our karmic sources and consequences and so forth. We just see a little bit. Buddha nature, the source of all of it, it flourishes beyond the clouds of our ignorance and our karma. We just do the very best we can with what we see. Doing our best, keeping to the precepts, relinquishing our desire, our anger, resentment, confusion as best we can, in faith, in trusting ourselves to that which embraces everything and contains everything. That pure, clear, unstained Buddha nature that he talks about. The true reality beyond all the appearances. And once again, we pledge ourselves to it with faith that all is embraced within the great unseen, unborn, Buddha nature. We pledge ourselves to it, and we do our best. Homage to all the Buddhas in all worlds. Homage to all the Bodhisattvas in all worlds. Homage to the scripture of great wisdom. Tomorrow we'll talk about Shishibodai.